guys, welcome back to another episode of the Buckleheads Podcast. How's it going, Devin?
Good, man. The stairs to your basement was a little bit rough.
Well, I wonder why that is. Did you have something going on this weekend?
I did. I ran the world's toughest mudder down in Central Florida. It was wild.
So yeah, the world's toughest mudder. So 24 hours of mud and obstacles, right?
Yeah, it's a 5-mile loop. You have technically you have 25 and a half hours to do it. We'll explain that, but yeah, I ran 80 miles, which was the goal. So 5-mile loop. We ran that 16 times, full of all the mud, all the obstacles, all the everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I mean, most people can't even fathom running 80 miles. You did it with, was it 20 obstacles per
20 obstacles per loop.
So 16 loops, is that right?
Yeah.
So 320 obstacles and mud and 80 miles. That's amazing.
And electricity.
Electricity, yeah.
And ice and all the things, man.
So it might be a good thing you don't have a pacemaker.
Yeah. Well, actually, I only got zapped once. So for what it's worth, but yeah, I mean, we could do a whole podcast. I would like to do a whole podcast with World's Toughest Mudder just to talk about it, but man, I didn't know if it was going to be my last one. And Sean Corvell, we played a little bit of one of his hype speeches with Sean and Dan and Katie, that podcast. But the whole kind of the vibe of his pre-race thing, especially on Friday, was like, what if this is your last one? Because there's like next year it's going to be in the UK and there's no guarantee it's going to even happen in 2026. So the whole thing is like, what if this is your last one? And then run this race like it's going to be your last one. And I'm like, dang it, man. The race hasn't even started and I'm starting to cry because I don't want this to end.
So do you think they'll come up with any kind of like national 24-hour race where like each country will have their own on top of Worlds?
Well, in the OCR world, there's been several different like iterations of like a 24-hour world championships. Like OCR World Championships was a thing. Spartan had their own 24-hour race that they held in various locations, but World's Toughest Mudder was always the most popular one, and the other ones went away. And then Spartan bought Tough Mudder, and then they're trying to like, I think they're gonna bring it to the UK to try and see if they can boost numbers because it has been on a decline for just various reasons coming out of COVID. But this was my 4th time running it, and probably my I think it can't really compare to the first one because I had no idea what I was doing. That was my first year even into ultra running. But this year was just, I mean, it was kind of like one of those, what if this is your last, and just leave it all out there.
Yeah, and you did, because the 80 miles is a PR, right, for this?
For the World's Toughest Mudder, because first year I did 50, second year was 65, last year was 75, and you get this, they call it the coveted silver bib, where you hit 75, and this time the goal was to get it dirty. So the final loop was wearing the 75-mile bib, and, you know, it was good enough for, I think I placed 31st amongst almost 600 males, and, I mean, it was insane. And, you know, the only obstacle I was failing was Funky Monkey, which was this incline monkey bar thing, and then you spin on a bar and then go down a bar. And it's a difficult upper body obstacle, but that was the only one I was failing because the obstacle before it was a water obstacle, and so the bars were already wet. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And then the final obstacle was, so we left out of Tampa, the flight was delayed, so we had a layover in Chicago for an hour. So we had an hour window to get off the plane to Chicago. The flight leaving Tampa was delayed, and so the time kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and literally we got off the plane and Shay and I are sprinting across Chicago airport to make because it's the final flight of the night. We didn't want to stay the night in the airport. We both had kids. I mean, we got kids and work, and mother-in-law, she's at her wit's end with her kids, and but we made it as the door was closing. So that was the true final obstacle.
Yeah, your recovery run.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, and like I said, I hope you get to do more of these because I know you love doing.
I want to rope you guys into this stuff so bad. Like, I mean, there's a couple of different options next year with like the Tough Mudder Infinity, which is the 8-hour daytime. And then they do have a Tough toughest mudder, which is the 12-hour overnight. But so they do have those options next year in the States if I can rope some buckleheads into doing a Tough Mudder Ultra with me.
Yeah, that might happen. I've never done an OCR. I signed up for the Warrior Dash. I don't know when this was.
Yeah.
When it was in KC, might have been the first year for it at
Yeah.
KC, and I end up, surprise, trashing my ankle like a month before, where I was in a boot and I couldn't, on crutches.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah,
I
do
skipped
think
out and just never have got back to it.
Yeah, I think last year we all thought about it, but I kind of dropped the ball on it. But the Yeti in Kansas City, which is in January, that's a fun one. Just in the winter, it's a 5-mile mom and pop OCR. But I do want to give a shout out because I know he's listening. His name is Kevin Prater from Houston. He was the guy that like really showed me how awesome this community is because back in 2019, my first Worlds, about a month out, our Airbnb, they decided to sell, that we were going to pitch in with friends. So I sent out the bat signal to the Tough Mudder community. Hey, I need a place to stay. Can anyone help? And of course, everyone comes in. But he was I ended up staying with him in their mansion house, their Airbnb, and basically friends with them ever since. And I've ran Worlds with him. And then Kevin, he says he listens every week. He got 55 miles, which was his goal. But yeah, I'm sure we can go on and on about Worlds, and I would like to because we have a podcast and it's our own, and we can do whatever we want.
That's right. So, so before we get to our guest, I will say, we've talked about it before, the trail running community. It's there in the OCR. Like I said, it's just there's something about when people commit themselves to doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they see other people doing it who may be in need, they always reach out and help out. I think there's just, even though we all come from different backgrounds, just we can be completely different people.
Yeah.
But when you're at an event like that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're gonna help out and get people
as an example, there was a pain. They called it pyramid squeezed. So it's a incline slick wall, but which typically, you have to work as a team to climb up it. But they decided to put a cargo net on top of it. And so you really had to work together because it's a tight cargo net. You're going up a slick wall with a rope, and the elites are right next to you, working together to get through and up this wall, or just all the things.
Yeah.
And so it's, oh my goodness.
So we're gonna have to. We can squeeze in a midweek episode sometime. We can cover
just talk
World's Toughest, but. Just so we don't keep our guest waiting all night long. This is a guest where every runner in Topeka, probably most people in the Midwest, are going to know who this guy is if you've been to any trail races around here at all.
He did run a normal Tough Mudder with me back in 2022, or was it 21?
That was 22.
I think it was 22.
Yeah, it was 22.
And just a clue, he's probably tall enough just to step over the obstacles. So yeah, guys, our guest today is none other than Jonathan Prosser. So welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Good to be here.
Yeah. So you've done a few podcasts before, so this is nothing new to you, but probably the first one you've done in my basement.
This is the first one in person, so this is awesome.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That is cool.
This is great.
Yeah. Chase and Casey said the same thing. I said Chase and Casey, not Case and Chasey, right?
You got it right. Yeah.
That was really funny when I was like, in my defense, I'm sleep deprived just like everybody else. But yeah, just one more Tough Mudder kind of jab in there. I remember when you ran the Tough Mudder with me, Jonathan. I remember you saying, "Okay, I get it." Like when Sean was hyping us up and doing the things and running through all the stuff, you're like, okay, I get it.
Oh yeah, I had a blast doing it. I'm a bigger guy, so I'm challenged with those upper body obstacles.
Yeah.
So, but you can't. Worlds can't be your last. They can't be your last one.
No.
I promised you that I would do a Worlds with you.
Yep. So if they do keep it in the UK in 2026, I'm saving now for it because I'm like, that would be epic.
Yeah. I don't know about traveling internationally, but
Yeah.
So you get Western states out of the way in 2025 if the lottery works out for you.
Gosh, dang it. Yeah.
And save your money. So, yeah.
So, right on, dude. So I'm going to remember this time, Brian. We do start off every episode. We steal it from Dylan Bowman, Free Trail Podcast. I know you know him. It's actually kind of interesting how many people have not heard of him.
There's been quite a few. Like, I understand if like Rick was mostly a mountain biker, so I can kind of get that. But some of the ultra runners are like, "Who's Dylan Bowman?" And I'm like, "How do you not?"
He's trying to like professionalize the sport.
Right. It's like, come on.
Yeah. So, but I guess the question is, what makes you you?
What makes me me? Well, first and foremost, it would have to be my faith in Christ and just growing up with a solid family that pointed me to God at an early age, and just having a wonderful family, not just the close family around me, but my extended family. They're very much like, I mean, it doesn't matter how much time can pass between each time we get to see each other, and it's just like no time has passed. So it's I'm very blessed to have that as a fundamental background to what makes me me. Other than that, like just I don't know. I was kind of growing up. I was always heavier and out of shape, and so that kind of I got picked on from some people, but it also made me stronger looking back on it. And I would say like all those hard things that I went through, whether as a child, high school, as an adult, those have all, like, persevering through those trials have, shaped me to who I am. And I try to be a positive person now, I love the bracelet that Devin gave me that says constantly positive. And it's a daily reminder, because that's kind of the hardest thing, is the daily grind. It's not when you're around people, it's the day-to-day grind, but yeah, it's kind of what makes me.
Did I ever tell you the story of like how I got those bracelets?
No.
I mean, I think I had a total of 3 of them, but his name, oh man. Okay, now I'm spacing on his name, but his rapper name was White Light. But essentially it was a guy, he has cerebral palsy, and was it like, basically he turned his disability into a positive because he's a really good rapper, but he would float around the local community scene, and my bands would play with him quite a bit, because he'd be like, "You need an opener? I got you." And so basically I'm like, "Man, your story is incredible. You inspire a lot of people." What was really cool was the Beartooth show when I got into High Lonesome. He came out for the final song of the chorus. I'm like, "Shay, that's him. That's," but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I only have 3 of those, and I give 1 to you and 1 to my sister.
Still got it.
We still got it. We've worn them for a lot of miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's being positive. It's tough. There's a lot going on in the world right now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, every time I've been around you, you've always been positive, and we're fortunate enough to actually know some of your family. Your wife, and we see your wife and kids at the races, and
and Mama Prosser.
I mean, who else do we know that will just get in a car and drive the roads to Lawrence, Kansas once a year, like at 2 miles per hour, to follow us around and make sure we're not dying of heat stroke and getting us food and drink. So that's always a fun thing to do. And but yeah, so
yeah, I think it's fun just this whole podcast thing, because we've shared a lot of miles together, to say the least. And I think a lot of miles. I think I probably ran with you more than I probably have run with anybody else. Like I think it was last week, Brian, you said that you would run probably 1,000 miles with Caleb. But there were things that he said in that podcast that you're like, I had no idea. So, and I think this is the first time outside of like Chiefs games and running, and I mean, we hang out every now and again, but typically it's around, running or Chiefs games or Buckleheads parties or something.
We're getting our kids out.
Yes. Trails with the kids, with the boys, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, let's
so let's dig into that, your childhood a little bit more. I'm not a therapist, so don't take anything I say worth anything. But, so you talked about being overweight, getting bullied. I know you played basketball, but so what kind of like activities were you involved in, and what led you to running? Like, when did that all happen?
So I think last time I was on I would say normal weight, I was 9, and then so from 9 till about 15, 16, I was just I ate whatever I wanted, and I ate my feelings too, so it was that went along with the bullying, and so I did my very first sport that I played was baseball. I played baseball when I was really I'd say I think I played for 4 years during that whole time, and I actually didn't play basketball until my junior year of high school, and I had always loved basketball. I watched my brother play, and I would play pickup basketball with him and his friends and all that, and so I always wanted to. I was just I guess reserve, there was something in me that held in reserve. I didn't want to be made fun of in a public manner like that, and it wasn't until 16, 17 that I was okay, I kind of grew out of my chubby stage, and I got I grew 5 inches in a year and a half, and so the height helped with that, but also I had encouragement from family members and friends just to not worry about it and to be me, and that really helped. I just kind of brushed it off after that, and then it wasn't really a thing. As soon as I kind of just brushed off being picked on, it was they don't control me, my how I react to it. I just once I got in that mindset, I decided to go out and play basketball for Heritage Christian, really small Christian school in Topeka, and that's where I played with Dan Lister, and I mean basketball is probably my favorite sport to play. I always wanted to try football, but that along with all that, and everybody just said because of how big I got, they were like, you should play football. But I think basketball is my favorite sport, and I still play it occasionally with some guys, and just a pickup game every now and again. But so that's sports, and then after high school, I wanted to see how good I could get. Honestly, it was ego thing. I want to see how good I could get at basketball, and so I decided I gotta run more than just what I'm, just going to play. I wasn't doing anything outside of just playing 2 or 3 times a week. And so I decided to start running. We were in town. We were living close to Washburn by then, my wife and I. And I just decided I'm going to go run 2 miles around Washburn. And that's kind of where the whole running journey started, was that 2-mile loop, just trying to get faster and faster. and I used to hate running. I really hated it, and but the more I did it, the more I fell in love with it, and it's kind of that you got to build up to before you can actually enjoy it. Yeah, so that was kind of my childhood, getting into running. I met my wife when I was 19. We got married about a year and a half after. Actually, no. It was a little bit longer than that, because we were engaged for like a year and a half. We got married and started. We both wanted to have kids. And the big one that I remember was 2015, and I can remember exactly where I was. We were in the Garden of the Gods out in Colorado, outside Colorado Springs, and Jonah was 2 years old then, and he was running up these hills, the mountain, just being a free 2-year-old, and I couldn't run after him if I could, like if he could outrun me and just run away from me, and it kind of hit me that I was like, man, I'm in terrible shape. Like I had neglected taking care of myself physically. I was still playing basketball, but I didn't care my weight and everything. And I got 2015, I weighed 295, and then I started one year at a time. I started giving up one thing. I was like, 1 year, I'm gonna better myself in this way. And it was actually I had given up pop before that in 2013. So I haven't had pop since 2013. But in 2015, it was on the way home after that, and we were out there for my brother's wedding, and I remember seeing the wedding pictures of how big I was, and I was like, it just hit me. I was like, I gotta do something. And so I gave up fast food when on the way back from Colorado, and that kind of just that sparked, like a wildfire under, getting into shape, but also down the road into running. Like it just all went hand in hand. But that was a very pivotal moment for me, changing my life around physically. But it also, in return, that helped me mentally be a better father, be a better husband. And so that was the turning point, I would say, is 2015. And then it wasn't, I don't know when that was, that 2018 that I started running. So I got into better shape, was playing basketball. And then 2018, I was like, all right, let's be serious. So,
yeah. I always think it's interesting because there's usually, like, I think Caleb said he had that moment too, because like Caleb was saying, he wasn't unhappy by any means, like, but he, like, I can't exactly remember. I should probably go back and listen to the Buckleheads episode. But yeah, especially with a lot of men and a lot of dads, there's that moment sometimes. Sometimes it's a David Goggins reel. Sometimes it's a, something they see. Sometimes it's a picture, because like I was always that, I've never been like that big, but I've always been kind of like that skinny, fat, like self-conscious kid where I would wear a shirt in a pool and all the things. And even to this day, I struggle with self-confidence, even though like a lot of times people are like, well, I mean, you've done all these crazy things. You don't need to. It was like, we still beat ourselves up. And, it's the comparison is the thief of joy is the quote. But yeah. I always think it's, we're all on our own journeys, but to set the example for your kids, like when you turned it around then, because they probably don't know you. They didn't remember a Garden of the Gods thing when you couldn't keep up with him. He's like, oh yeah, I'm running faster than... He was 2. He probably doesn't even remember that to this day. But
it's really hard to look at yourself in the mirror and lie to yourself.
Oh yeah.
About like where you actually are.
Yeah.
And I had that moment, just staring at the mirror, crying, and like, it's only you.
Yeah.
You take charge and change it, or you can just continue the way you're going and probably keep gaining weight until you're miserable.
Yeah.
You know, but my goal was to lose 100 pounds, and I got close. I got down to 208 after weighing 295. So
yeah,
almost there. But and then I kind of just realized, I was like, I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy now with who I am and where I'm at. So
you're also like 6'5" and a mountain man.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah, you got to be careful too, because it is just a number.
Yeah.
And even,
And that's what I realized.
Mm-hmm.
It's
after.
easy to, it's essentially an eating disorder when all you're worried about is hitting a number every single week. So, but yeah, you're to be able to do the things you're doing. You have to consume a huge amount of calories, and it's tough finding that balance. But yeah, ultimately you can pick a number on the scale, but it's just a number, and whether or not it's actually right for you, I don't know how to answer that, but
I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
And that's what I think counts right now. It's like I can be an active dad, and I'm being intentional about being healthy.
But that's what it's all about. I guess we already know the first answer to the rapid fire question. Whether it's Coke or Pepsi, is going to be neither.
Yeah.
Water. It's going to be water.
What did it used
Coffee.
to be? Coffee.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So So you managed to change your life. But really, I'm assuming you didn't have plans someday thinking I'm going to run ultramarathons when you first started this, because if you were like me, I ran for a while before I even knew this stuff existed.
No.
So you went from, I got to keep up with my kids. I got to get healthier, be a good role model.
And then Mandy signed you up for your marathon?
Yeah.
Is that how it worked? Okay.
Yeah. I was running that loop around Washburn, and she thought, when I was doing like 8 to 10 miles a week of running, and she's like, oh, you can do a half marathon.
Well, I don't know if I can say this on here, but you're kind of returning the favor, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. I finally paid her back. I signed her up for her first marathon at Prairie Spirit.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun, because there'll be a lot of us out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people running different distances, and I'm sure a lot of probably an aid station again. Is that right?
I think Diana's going to head it, because I'm going to try and PR a 100-miler out there.
Yeah, so you've done a lot of ultras now.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 50K to 200 miles. You've done Leadville. You've hit some iconic races.
So I think when you and I first met, it was kind of via social media, Strava, but I remember Brian, I'm pretty sure, made the post on Topeka Trail Runners. Devin completed the Ozark Trail 100, because that's when I first met you guys, kind of about a month before then. And then Jonathan had just completed the Austin Rattler, qualifying for Leadville.
I met you that December, so it was shortly after.
But I knew you on Strava and Facebook.
Yeah.
Before then, but we met in person. It's funny, at a 5K that I ran to
from your house, and I was like, "Wait, saying you ran here to do the 5K?"
Yeah. The keeping it local. It was an unofficial 5K, because that was during COVID weirdness, and sometimes the city of Topeka likes to pull things out last minute. But yeah, that was kind of our initial, like, hey, did we just become best friends because we run a lot?
Oh yeah.
But
it was very much a stepbrothers thing.
Yeah. But yeah, what was your first ultra was
Rocks on Lake Perry.
That's right.
Yeah. So very first trail race was what's the other one out there that was
Free State?
No. It wasn't called Free State.
We always go back and forth with this.
It was a half marathon. They did it in October, and then Rocks on Lake Perry was the January one. So it was in October. And
the way that I remember it, because I did my first ultra was Rock on Lake Perry, and I'm pretty sure that was the half marathon you and Justin did.
Yeah.
During the downpour, but I think they've called it different things. I have a hat that says Rock on Lake Perry. And that was my first 50K. But you guys were running that as a half marathon.
Yep.
But your first ultra was later that year. or later that January?
It would have been that following January.
That's right.
Right after that, because that was October first trail race, and then January. I think that was.
Which one was that? Your first?
The first. So I'll just say my first 50K was Rocks on Lake Perry.
Okay.
In 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good course. You got a little bit of rocks, a little bit of hills.
Yep.
You know, it's
Some snow.
It's flat out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But was the eye all? So I'm just curious because was it the David Goggins book that got you into kind of the ultra world?
Man, it was the Team Never Quit podcast with Marcus Luttrell and his brother, and they had some other guys that were hosting then, but those guys just like I kept listening to these never quit stories even before I started really running, but all the way through, and it just sparked it. And then David Goggins was on that podcast twice, and that's where I heard about him and Leadville, and I was like, that's insane. You know, that was the first time I had ever heard the mention of 100-mile race. Even like I had looked up, you know, races and stuff, and I found the 50K, but I had not seen 100-mile yet.
Yeah, and I would say to finish a 100-miler, you have to do a lot of physical training. But I don't care what kind of shape you're in. You have to have that never quit story, because there's more often than, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but it's not uncommon to have times in a 100-mile race where you're just like, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you may not even be hurting that bad, but you're going, man, I've still got 50 miles to go. So you have to have that never quit. And like, what makes you never quit? You know?
I mean, honestly, I don't have, there's some that stay the same, but each race is a little bit different on my never quit. The one that stays the same is, you know, setting an example for my kids. You know, I want them to know that whatever they pursue in life, that they can do hard things themselves. And, you know, whether we fall down, that's not quitting to me. Is, you know, whether you get a DNF or, you know, you lose your job or something like that. Like, if you sit down and don't do anything after that, that's quitting. Like, get back up. You know, what's that one quote? Fall 6 times, stand up 7. So, you know, no matter how many times you're kicked in the dirt or, you know, life's, you know, being hard, you know, stand up and keep going. That's kind of, I don't know, like, I say each one changes. You know, Devin and I started training and running together in search of his second 100 and my first 100 at Silver Hills, and that was probably one of my favorite training blocks.
It was pretty epic. There's some good stuff in there.
I mean, we were just doing some solo, and we did 52 miles at Governor's solo, or, you know, just on our own. And but, you know, the outcome of that race taught me a lot. With it was my first 100 and my first DNF, and I've been very fortunate that it's my only DNF right now.
You and I both, bro.
But man, it's kind of it still is a fuel for me, because I hated that taste. I looked at myself right after that race, and I was like, I knew I could do it. Like, and so, you know, I talked about that. I signed up for my next 100, the Outlaw 100, on the way back after DNFing, because I had that bad taste in my mouth. I knew I could do it. And so we went from that summer to, and then Outlaw was in February. And, you know, it's been a huge why, or huge reason for why I don't quit. I just hate that feeling.
It's such a bad feeling. And I love just one more Tough Mudder thing. Sean Carvel, he has a great quote. It's, you don't finish at the finish line. you finish someplace out there and then you make it to the finish line.
That's
that
very
is
true.
so true, because you are done. Like I was trying to find a reel real quick just now, but there were a couple of them that I always see because the Instagram algorithm, they know me, but it's no one can truly comprehend what you go through in 100-miler until you actually do it. Like, I'm so glad that Dan and Sean and
oh yeah,
they know it now, and they're like, okay, that was because the Borderlands guy, he has a reel that goes viral every now and again. It's like, you go to hell and you come back, and then you go to hell again, then you come back, and then you go back, and then it's just a roller coaster of emotions. And you know, sometimes you actually don't have to go there, and sometimes it's like smooth sailing the whole time. But I wish someone would tell me what race has that, because I've never had a smooth 100-miler. but yeah, I mean, all three of us here, we've experienced that feeling of a DNF, and it sucks. And sometimes it's out of your control. In our case, it was kind of in our control. Like, I always say you tapped because I tapped. But
that was my decision, man.
Yeah.
That was totally my decision.
Yeah.
We agreed to finish together.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of both you guys. I'm just curious. So of all the races I've done, there are times where no matter what you felt during the race, sometimes I think back and it's almost like, did I really do that? Like, you're sitting there going, did I really run 100 miles?
I have that feeling right now.
Oh, so like, am I not? So I'm not the only one that kind of sits there and goes like,
an out of body experience.
Like, okay, I got to go do that again, because it's like, as awesome as it was, like it's gone now. It's in the past, and like, I know it happened, but sometimes I'm like, it's like race amnesia. Like, you.
Well, when you and I
do it, it's an amazing experience, and then it's like, hey, I kind of need some more of that.
Yeah. So. Well, when you and I finished Bighorn, I remember texting you, I think 5 days later, like, was that real life? Like, did we just do that? Like, Bighorn?
Yeah, that's...
And then, like, with High Lonesome, when I went back to work, I'm like, guys, did that happen? Like, did all my friends rally? And, like, Jonathan was there, and he's out. At the time, Jonathan was in the middle of the Summit 200. I'm like, he better finish that.
That feeling or what you're describing, when Devin was pacing me at the end of Leadville, I remember it, but it was one of those, like, it just felt like this can't be real.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know how this is actually happening.
A lot of it's because both you and I would, like, Brian, I always say, like, okay, I guess we've ran some of the big boy races with, like, Bighorn. You've ran Leadville, High Lonesome, and it's like, okay, I love local races and I love, like, the smaller ones, but there's something about the big ones that, like, when you complete it, it's like, oh my, what? Like, I hope to get that feeling with, like, Western States or Hard Rock, or like some of the bigger ones, or like, I don't know. It's hard to describe that out of body feeling of like, oh my God. And then I remember at the end of High Lonesome, when I finally saw you two, because Josh was with me, and I'm like, oh my God, this just happened. Like, we pulled this off, and I'm tearing up at the end. I'm trying, like, hey guys, at least my watch says 100 miles. I remember saying that, but
you know, jumping in to pace you at High Lonesome, that was one of the most nerve-wracking, like, 15 minutes of my life. Like, I was like, what do I do? Do I pace him? Do I not?
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just like, whatever. Like, I don't care about my race at this point. Like, it's like, Devin has to, get to the finish.
Yeah.
And then they had all the, like, the QR or Corsair card that you had to do. And I was like, oh, man. So
yeah, well, I appreciate you doing that, because you kind of saved my butt, because I failed on my pacing duties. But
no, never.
It was,
you got them through the night.
Yeah.
Well, I keep looking at the High Lonesome website. I'm just going to say it multiple times a day, going, when's this application going to open up for the lottery? But
so
I'll get there.
When did it escalate from, okay, you've completed multiple 100-milers now, and then, like, just speaking of High Lonesome, you paced me was it 18 miles? Like 3 days before you were starting your 200 miler.
Yeah.
So yeah, easy. I can do 18, no problem.
It wasn't the smartest thing. But...
No, but looking back now, like I hope you would say it was worth it because you finished yours and all the memories, all the things. But when did it like, okay, I've done some tough hundreds. Now it's time for the 200. Like, was it like what made you're wearing a Summit 200 finisher jacket right now? It's pretty awesome. Like, I'm pretty jealous of it. But when did it like, okay, let's continue down this path?
I don't know at what point. It's not that I love the 100-mile distance, and I will continue to keep doing 100-milers. I just and shorter. I love trail racing. 100 is probably my favorite distance, even though I would say the Summit is probably my favorite race, just for different reasons. It's just the commitment to train for it, but also to be gone that long for a 200 is away from my family is, I really didn't like that feeling, but once you're out there, it's like you're committed to it. But I don't know at what point after what race, I felt like there was more in the tank, and I wanted to see, it's kind of that never quit mindset of I'm not done, I want to see what Jonathan can do, and it may change, one day to the next, like no 2 days are the same, no 2 races are the same, but I just have that drive to push to my limit, and I want to physically break myself like out there on the trail.
What is the breaking point?
Yeah, I see like the Arizona 300, I'm like, that's just insane. I mean, I can't, after doing the 200, I'm like, I can't fathom being out there that much longer. But then I see these guys doing like the Arizona trail FKT.
Yeah.
And it's wild, like where that side of the trail community is going. And not to like, you should never look at what you're doing and minimize it. But for me, it's like, I'm going to keep doing these races, but ultimately my pursuit is going to be, what can I do? So
what is I'm like, I guess a proud dad moment for me was when I heard my son tell someone, hey, my dad ran 100 miles once. Like, have you had like Jonah or someone say, dude, my dad ran 200 miles?
I don't know if they, I know maybe like with family and stuff. So like I've heard Avery say something like, my dad runs a lot. And they probably hear, well, he's probably gone a lot then. So, but I really, like you were saying, like, is it worth it on our family? I question that all the time, and I'm daily trying to find that balance of, training and getting out there on those early miles or late miles. Figuring the balance. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll reach out to the Buckleheads or the group, every now and again, because Brian, your kids are older. You didn't get into the ultra stuff until they were older. And like, there's a few of us in the group with kids that are the same age, and it's a hard balance, but like, we want to continue to do it. But like some of the older guys in the group, they weren't running when they were our age. Like, they were running later in life. And it's like, had they discovered ultra running then, would they have pursued it then, or waited till the kids were older, or like, do we want to wait till they're older? It's like, I don't know. I mean, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so that's also the other thing too.
So can I ask you a question, Brian? So you've got older kids, what's their perception of what you're doing with all these races? Is it impacting them as, going into adulthood?
I think so. They're not runners. My son ran 1 year cross country in middle school and just didn't really enjoy it. I mean, he played soccer, growing up nonstop. my daughter, loved just recreational sports for fun, basketball and soccer growing up, and she does the color guard. So it doesn't really get them into running, but I'm hoping that it just sees that it's worth pursuing hard things, whatever it is for them. They've been to a couple of my finishes. They care enough to come out and see me finish. You can't see it on Spotify, but that metal rack over there, my son made that for me. There's a couple items hanging up my daughter made for me. So, I think just knowing that they see how important it is to me, and like I said, I think it just will translate into, do hard things, whether that's them finding, a career that they want to stick with or whatever else. I hope it'll translate into that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm still hopeful. Like maybe someday they'll run. I don't know. My son is like a mountain goat. We've done a couple of 14ers, and I think it was Mount Elbert. It's the highest mountain out there. You did it just recently.
Yeah, it's a really fun hike.
I took him and 3 of his friends out there for like their senior trip, and the higher we got up that mountain, the rest of us were all dying from altitude. And my son's like just bouncing around. I mean, he looked like Scott Jurek out there, like going, "What are you guys doing? Come on, let's get to the top." So there's something in him that handles that altitude pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think they see it. They may not really talk about it. Kind of that funny moment was when my daughter was telling me how some of her friends were like looking at this Instagram story about this guy that ran, I don't know what it was, a 50-mile race or whatever. They were just like, "Oh my God, that can't be real." And then my daughter's just kind of like, people do that stuff. That's normal. And it's not normal, but even for her, she knows you guys and the whole group and just like going, there's people that do this, and we're not doing it to win races. I mean, we've all managed to get on the podiums at times, but I don't think that's why any of us are doing this, because eventually, I don't care who you are, you're not going to be winning, but you can still go out and do this stuff.
That's why they make age group awards.
Yeah. So.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Sort of Speedy Pants over there.
So yeah, I think that was a really long answer, but yes, I think they notice it.
No,
I think it does impact them, at least to some degree. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting, all of us with our kids, because when I grew up and when I didn't know anyone. No one in my family was active. No one, like a lot of my family, they struggle with heart issues, diabetes, all the things. I grew up on food stamps and Twinkies and snack foods, but it's like, okay, in our group of friends now, the Buckleheads, all of our kids, they know parents and their dad's friends or their mom's friends. They all run, they're all active, they're all doing this stuff. And it's interesting the type of impact that our community that we have is going to have on them as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it'll be interesting how it plays out. I'll let you know in 20 years.
Yeah. We'll get to it with the original Bucklehead podcast, but the Bucklehead group it was just a natural forming group that is just completely different. Like I see other other running groups and clubs and stuff, and it's not like us, for whatever reason. But and I think that's awesome that our kids, they're gonna grow up and see like the Bucklehead Christmas party and stuff. It's just it feels more like a community of like a family of runners than it is a club.
Well, just as like at the Richmond aid station, we had Caleb and Diana's kids, and we had Shane's kid there. Like Alicia was telling me that runners were finishing, and they're like, I kind of just want to go back to the Richmond aid station where the Buckleheads are, so I can just hang out with them because they're just having a ball back there. But that's just the vibe of the whole group, is kind of just, we're all in it together, and we're here to have a good time, and we're here to
Right.
help you out.
I think of that scene from The Office with Michael Scott where he's like, there ain't no party like Scranton party. It's like, that's the Buckleheads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the Buckleheads as a group of really good people that also happen to run ultras.
Yeah.
I mean, because like
exactly.
these are people that, you know, they're good people, and
You
like
want
I
to
said,
hang out with
we'll
them
get into
outside
that,
of...
but that's like the other requirement to get into Buckleheads is you got to be a good person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So the ride of the difference between a 100 miler and a 200 miler.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a little taste when I was at Outlaw. Granted, you finished 135, but I was not prepared to go into that second night. And in a 200 miler, you got the did you go through 3 nights or was it 4 nights?
4 nights.
You went through 4 nights of,
Yeah.
So I mean, just like, we know what a 100 miler is, the roller coaster that is, but I can't even comprehend the Summit 200. So just like, what was the prep like for that? I mean, I know that you had some incredible people out there pacing who are now Buckleheads too.
Yeah.
But just, you know, the lead up to that, because you were out there acclimating. That's why you were at High Lonesome as well. But just, you know, just take us through the Summit 200 ride a little bit, you know?
So I will say, like, I think besides Silver Heels, and we kind of, when we trained for that, we kind of was just doing it on our own. Didn't really have a formula for what we needed, but I mean, we pushed ourselves really hard. And then getting a coach, Cliff kind of showed me what a structured training should look like and how you build it up. And that was for Leadville, and that was probably still my hardest training block, was for Leadville. But training for the Summit, I don't know, I had a sense of, as long as I don't get injured and I keep building upon what I've already done, that it's possible. And so that was kind of like my whole, I didn't really lay out a structured training plan. It was the things that I had no clue what to do, like sleeping. That was a new one. Carrying a lot heavier pack, that was a new one. The amount of time on legs. So I would say my mileage wasn't very high, but I did a lot more strength training. I've seen other Buckleheads and other runners out there just harping on how much strength training will help them, and I 100% say if you're doing something long, like, it's going to help you with those later miles and with the recovery. So I did a lot more strength training, more specific training with carrying, doing rucking, a lot more hiking, because that's what I was going to be doing, was more hiking than running. My goal was to finish it, and I didn't really care like what the balance of running versus hiking was. This was a foot race, really, right? And so I did a lot. I tried to keep the training specific to what I was going to be doing out there, but still hard. And I did a lot of hill repeats and stuff like that. So that was the training for it. And then, leading up to it, I was so nervous like 2 weeks before it.
Don't you love that feeling?
Holy cow, man.
Like, you hate it and you love the feeling of like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to finish this, or like, I don't know how it's going to go. Like, do you love that feeling? Because sometimes I miss it. It's like,
I love it after the fact. Before, it's kind of nerve wracking. It's like, man, I don't know. I had all sense of, all engines were a go, and like, I've done other hard races, so like the mental aspect of it, I was like, there's bound to be stuff that pop out, but that's what we do, is we problem solve when it arises. Mm-hmm. And so outside of the unforeseen, I just, I was confident going into it, but I was also, I had reached out to several people, like, you know, because I was so nervous. I was like, do you think I can do it? Because I was like having those little bit of self-doubt. Yeah, but, you know, then it came to the, you know, packing is still one of my least favorite parts of doing these longer races. So I got everything packed up and got out to Colorado. Had 8 days to acclimate before the race. Just I was that I was that guy living in the van down by the river.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I was just out in Colorado hiking.
Yeah.
You know,
living the best life. And just like, so the Summit 200 is a 200-mile non-repetitive race, basically one big loop in Summit County, Colorado, put on by Ultraverse. Average elevation it's over 10,000, right? The average elevation.
I think, yeah, the average is over 10,000,
Yeah. And
you don't go below 9, and we got up to almost 13,000 feet.
Yeah.
During the race,
And,
like several times.
And total elevation gain is 37,000, or was it over 40?
I think it was 37, 38.
Yeah.
That I had.
And as a, you know, I was nervous for you guys because first year race, stretch for volunteers, all the things, and I'm like, Chase and Casey, they know what they're doing, but this is still a monstrous undertaking. But I was stoked to see how it all played out, and like we were all tracking, like they do the live tracking and everything, and of course the Bucklehead chat was blowing up the whole time, and you got that done. So
yeah. I think the one thing that's cool too is here we are, we're living in Kansas, and
yeah,
in Topeka, I think our biggest hill we can climb is about 180, 190 feet.
Yep.
I think so. You know,
good old Goldilocks.
Refine. You know, you found a way to take what you can get here, and train yourself up and go out and do, you know, a race that even scares me. Like that race, it's on my radar, but man, I'm sitting back going, you know, after pacing you at High Lonesome, just going,
my goodness.
Like, it scared me.
I don't know if I could do it, but that's part of what we do. Is I think most of us, at least most people I know that run ultras, we'd rather take on that challenge and fail than someday sit back and be like,
yeah,
wonder if I could have done that. You know, like I'm gonna go out and do it. If I can't do it, you know, I'll figure out what I did wrong and go try it again. So it's just, you know, so I don't know. I know we can't go forever, unfortunately, but so we talked a little bit about the summit. You know, again, you finished, you got your 200-mile buckle. Most recently, just a couple weeks ago, you ran the Hare Mountain 100 down in Arkansas, right? Which is a point-to-point. So
yeah.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that race, because it's one I'm not real familiar with, and just how to go for you. Tell us about the course in general. And
So it was this. I had back in 2019. I had gone, or 19. Gosh, 21. Back in 21, I did a 50-miler down on the back end of the course. It's on the Ozark Highlands Trail. And so I'd seen a taste of like what it's going to be. And when I saw that it popped up that it's a point-to-point, it was on my radar to do I really wanted to do a point-to-point 100-mile, even though I'd just done the summit, which is a point-to-point 200. But it was still like, I got to do a, you know, point-to-point 100. And I love the woods down there. I love the trails, how they're so gnarly technical and just constantly up and down, constantly. I mean, you have maybe like a half mile flat down by a creek bed or something, and then it's just back up. And, you know, I really love that. That type of trail just sticks out to me. That's what I like. And so, it was the last year was the inaugural year for the Hare Mountain. And they were still trying to figure out what the cutoff time should be. and there was only one finisher, and it was still unofficial because they had flooding, so they couldn't actually complete the course. And so Minnie Coleman had to go, like, be rerouted to get to the finish. And it was, and she got lost, I believe. But it was like 44 hours.
That's how the first year went?
Yeah, that's how the first year.
What?
So she was the only one on there on Ultra
What?
Sign Up.
I had no idea.
That finished, and I was like, oh boy. So
Wow.
yeah, and so then I was like fired up. I was like, that sounds like a really hard point-to-point 100, and right up my alley. It's like 5.5 hours to get down there, and so I signed up like right after registration opened, and for the longest time I was the only one that was signed up. And then luckily, like the last, I don't know, 4 months, it kind of got some more traction, and there ended up being 16 runners that started the 100, which was more than the other two shorter distances. They had a 50 mile and a 55K. So kind of a smaller race, but still like, and it's very much like a grassroots type 100. Like, it's still enough that it's not like super minimal where it's like just water and crackers. But I mean, the aid stations were great, and they had everything that you could need, really.
What did they have in Sean's race? Like peanuts and
was it just water? I don't remember. Like it was
in Ireland.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, if I go to Ireland, I'm packing my pack with some some M&Ms or something.
Yeah, we're used to those all-you-can-eat buffets at the races
For
here.
real.
Bring your own quesadillas.
Yeah, total grassroots. And
yeah, so like that kind of stuck out to me too. That I've done all the, I've done these anywhere from Leadville, where it's tons of people, to Hell Creek, where it's like a family race. Like you get to know everybody, because there's not that many signed up, which I love. I honestly, I like the smaller ones more than the bigger ones. So that kind of stuck out to me. But it was gnarly. It was a very, I would put it right up there with being just as tough as Bighorn. In terms of the fatigue on legs, just for different reasons. There were so many leaves covering all the rocks.
Oh yeah.
That it just made it so difficult to navigate the technical without twisting your ankle. And so it made you go slower, right? Because I wanted to finish, so I don't know how people were like flying as fast as they went, but so yeah, and I finished. I ended up. Let's see. It was like, I don't know, around like 25, 26 miles in. I met this guy, Pat, and he was from St. Louis, and he was running with his friend. He had twisted his ankle. I was running with Johnny, who I met at the summit, and we both kind of just wanted to go a little bit faster and make up some time. And so we, just naturally, that's what I love about these races, is like, I mean, we kind of just stuck together, started talking and stuff, and then it was like, an hour till nightfall, and without even saying anything, we're like, yeah, we're gonna stay together.
Yeah. So
I mean, we stuck the whole rest of the race out and ran basically over 70 miles together, which is awesome. I mean, I met a new trail running friend, and him. So that finish, I've had some close finishes, outlaw,
to say the least.
And I knew that they weren't gonna, so they called it a soft cutoff, where you're still gonna get a finishing time, you're still gonna get a buckle, even if you're over the cutoff, because they're still trying to figure it out. I think she's changing that next year, where it's like, she changes to 40 hours instead of 38, and it's gonna be hard. 40 hours, which I think is fair. That's, so we pushed up the last climb, and it's probably the hardest section, most technical section of the course up to the White Rock Mountain finish. So from Shores up there, it's like 6 miles, and we had been doing like 21 minute miles before that, and we pushed like 15-minute miles that last 6 in the rain up the the most technical, and it was just like full out. Like I think my heart rate was like 170 that whole time.
Damn.
Going up there, but it made for an awesome finish. And then fog rolled in, so you couldn't even, it was like visibility down like 10-15 feet. And so like trying to find the markers, I'm using the GPX on my watch, and
guys, I'm coming.
it was a wild
I'm coming.
finish.
Don't you dare cut me off.
So we tried our best to get up there before the 38 hours. And when I looked at my watch, it was like within like 10 seconds, and we're coming into the finish. They marked us down at 38:01, but yeah,
It was 37.
unofficially,
It was
I think it was the
37:50.
closest finish that I could have ever, trying to get up there before 38 hours was,
That's wild, man.
yeah, it was a fun ride.
Yeah.
And right now, some road runners listening to this going, was he excited about 15-minute miles?
100%.
That's right.
Yes. That's how this works.
So that sounds like a pretty epic race down there. And
Yeah.
it's we're kind of focusing on Midwest. I guess technically that's probably considered the South, but it's pretty darn close. If it's a 5-hour drive, then
Yeah.
like I said, there's amazing stuff around this area. Lots
Yeah.
of cool stuff, and I hope that race grows. And since I've busted my ankle twice, broke it twice, I'm not sure if it's on my radar, but you never know. One of these days, might go check it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think it's awesome what you're doing, like all the races you're doing, all the different types of races you're doing, because I think that probably leads into probably where we're going to pivot this conversation a little bit to what you're doing as a race director, because not only are you the like the ultra runner, the 200-mile finisher, all the things, you're also creating another community in Topeka. Right now is revolved around the Skyline Scramble, but you are the owner operator of Rocking Chair Running Company, and then right now you have one race, which is the Skyline Scramble. It's already kind of an area favorite, because there's a lot of people that I know in Kansas City that are like, I heard about that race, I had a friend that ran it, I'm going to come run it next year or whatever it is. So that's the second year, right? You've had it 2 years.
Yep.
So just chat a little bit about Rocking Chair Running Company, kind of how that sparked and the future of it and Skyline and all that stuff.
Man, it honestly kind of reminds me of how you guys started the podcast. Like
just gotta-
it was talked about, and it was like, who's gonna do it?
Yeah.
Because it was like we have a big enough trail community. It's like somebody's gonna start a race eventually, and I had asked Mandy, my wife, can I do this? And she was on board. She was like, if you want to do it, do it. And there, just talking on our trail runs and stuff, it kind of just came from that why isn't there a race in Topeka, a trail race? And so I kind of, with the support around me, I knew I was like, we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I could not do it on my own. Like I love that, we've had great volunteers, but having Ed West and Justin Newhouse, my wife, and then the other ones that step up behind that to pick up other things that need done. It is just, if Ed came to me and said, hey, I want to run it, or I don't want to help anymore,
Mm-hmm.
I would freak out, because he's that pivotal, and Justin's he does so much with the design, and just I bounce off so many questions with these guys, and the Buckleheads, I'm always like putting things out in the chat, and it kind of like, I love doing it. I mean, it is so fun seeing that side of things, and I was so nervous the first year. But once I saw like people were smiling, they were coming in, and just in a good mood, and it just I was hooked. Honestly, like I would do as many races as Ultraverse if I had the time and money, but I've got a newborn, and I still want to do more races with the rocking chair running, but I'm working on some, but the Skyline Scramble has been awesome. We've had two successful years. We almost got the permit revoked on the first year due to rain, and they thought it was going to be too muddy. Well, they ended up coming out and assessing the trail and saying no, I think it's fine. You can go ahead and do it. And so that was the day before, and I was like, well, that's I thought that's my life as a RD was one shot at it, and I'm done. But fortunately, they've been really, the Parks and Rec in Topeka have been great with working with us now, and the Trail Alliance they do a lot of they do all the maintenance up there on the Skyline trails, and so it's got the community to back it, and the support, and so that's why it's been a success. It's not because of me. I started the LLC, the company, Rocking Chair Running, and the race, but
you got to take some credit for it. It wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you. For those, I don't want to take over this real quick, but just for people listening, the Skyline Scramble is a timed race, so it's 3, 6, or 12 hours at 2.1 mile loop. How far?
2.17 is what
okay.
They've been,
so it's in March. Every year it'll be March 1st.
March 1st.
Coming up. And I would just say it's a great event. If you've never ran a trail race, the timed events are perfect because you can sign up for whatever time you want. And as long as you can finish one of those 2.17 mile loops, you're a finisher. If you can get 10 of them done, great. If you can do one, great. So it's a race that's doable for everybody. You can come out and walk. You don't even have to run. So
and the swag is awesome. Like the medals are so unique. They're not medals. They're I don't know if they're going to be the same for year 3 or not.
We're looking at something different.
Yeah. But they've been like these wooden. What's the company that you've used here in Topeka?
So I've used 2 different ones. Okay. I used what's the medals place?
West Side?
West Side Stamps.
Yeah.
They did the first year. And then they call them wood cookies, but they're just, it's just a limb from a tree, and it's cut into a slice, and then we have the cool logo put on it. And I love both years with the medals. They've been cool.
And I'm the back-to-back second place 12-hour winner each year. Like first year Chase was just on a different level, and then this year I was like 3 weeks post Outlaw, and Spencer, who just beasted as the race went on. I'm like, but it's so much fun. And like there's a section where you cross paths, like because it's like you kind of run a mile and then you cross paths and run another mile. Like obviously the podcast can't see my loopy hands, but like there's a section where where runners will cross paths, and it's always high fives and cheers, and towards later in the race there's a little bit of hey good job. Like the vibes are still high the whole time, and it's such an awesome race, and I'm proud of you for it's just like, hey, someone's got to do it, and we just got to do it. And I remember when you first started talking about it, and just to watch it grow to what it is now, and to see it continue to grow. Hopefully I'll get, at least second place again this year. Maybe first place, who knows?
It's great for the Topeka community because people always say there's nothing going on in Topeka, but there is, and you're helping provide more things to do. So, and you had, 75 people last year? How many was there?
We had, the first year was 75, and then we had 96, I believe.
So almost,
that's
almost
awesome.
100.
So Yeah, we've set the cap at 150, so we think that hopefully we can get above that 100 mark, breaking into new territory, but it's been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Buckleheads Podcast. Yeah, I'll be there. I think, Devin, you're going to be there too. So, yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of, it's just a fun event. It really is.
Yeah, and the best part about the timed event, I think, is you get to push yourself however hard you want in that time. So, if 12 hours is enough for you, find the 24-hour race. But I think that it's a great race, whether you have no trail experience or you're a veteran. I think anybody can have fun out there.
Yeah. And if you guys take a look at the Topeka Trail Runners Facebook page as it gets closer, because last year, especially Hunter Munns, he led several weekend training runs out there where people would get together and you would just go run the course, as much as you want. So there's opportunities if you're not running trail now or you're kind of scared about trying it out. There'll be chances ahead of time to see the course and get out there and just get a little bit of practice.
Maybe just an idea. Maybe team up with Fleet Feet, do a training block in the rocking chair. Teaming up with Fleet Feet, doing a training block in preparation for Skyline. Hey, that could be kind of cool.
I think Hunter's working on something there, but we'll find out soon.
Is he cool?
Because they just did the one for Sanders Saunter.
Yeah,
where they had a lot of
that turned out well.
A lot of first-time trail runners, and even last night we had our Tuesday group run. It was the first one where we finished in complete darkness, and there was at least one person there last night who has never been in the woods in the dark at all, for anything in their life. So
wow,
that's awesome.
That was a whole new experience, and that's the Topeka community, trail community. Rocking Chair Racing Company is really working right now to keep things growing and we need the races like you provide to really keep that interested. Some people can get by with training runs, but others need something kind of shiny hanging in front of them to get put on their calendar and go for.
Yep, I'm looking forward to I want to do a couple more races with the company, and but balancing that right now with family life it's gonna go at a natural slow pace. Got to put family first.
Yeah, throw up that Bucklehead bat signal, and I'm sure you'll have you'll find more people that's going to be willing to help you out. So just let us know what you need.
So do you guys have show notes? Are there show notes?
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Bro, we're professional.
Come on.
We'll put it in the show notes.
I was testing you. So I'll put in a discount for the Skyline Scramble for anybody that listens to this. So
awesome. So, bro, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
It's fun. Like I said, it's so tough. I've said it before. We kind of had this hey, let's start this. And I'm like, man, I'm an introvert. I'm not much for talking to people. How are we going to do this for an hour?
Yeah.
And now half the episodes we're looking at our watches going, I don't want to stop, but at some point we got to wrap it up. But so it's just been great. I really appreciate you coming out and talking with us.
Yeah, and I mean, we've shared a lot of miles together, and just some of the stuff you've talked about today, the journey you've been on, it's been awesome to see it firsthand. And Crash and Eddie, I love how David, the podcast I've done with David Terry on Run the Riot, when we talk about how you and I, we push each other to making more and more dumb decisions at times.
Oh yeah.
You guys are going to kill yourselves. No, we're not. And I need to, I feel like you've done more favors for me when it comes to some of the really grinded out pacing duties, because you've seen me in, I feel like, I think I have your longest 50K and longest marathon PRs, because when you paced me for a marathon loop at the Hawk, oh my guts were inside out and puking all over White Trail. And then for Flat Rock, we pretty much walked the last loop because of all the my heel was falling apart.
And pacing's so much fun. You get to see it firsthand.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're out there thinking like, I want to kind of push the limit, like go pace somebody.
Yeah.
That's doing these, and then you get to see it firsthand.
Mm-hmm. And see them push, and it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing somebody hurt and throw up and then keep going, puke and rally, man.
You've seen me do that a lot.
Devin's done that.
So, but as we wrap up here, bro, we do have some rapid fires. Thanks for doing this, man. This is so much fun. But to start it, I know what you're gonna say already. But Coke or Pepsi?
Coffee.
Yeah, it's gonna be coffee. Are you Garmin or Coros?
Garmin.
See, did you hear that? I think we've had one Coros, right?
We did. I think
Garmin
Sean
does still have good battery life.
They do.
Yeah.
I have to charge mine like if I go past 30 hours, but
It lasted 38 hours at the Hare with the GPS going with the maps, and it still didn't die until the day after.
my goodness,
So
that's insane. What shoes are you wearing on the trails?
I've always loved the Speed Goats. I got the new Speed Goat 6s, and I don't know. I've gotten over 150 miles in them, but they just don't feel as good as the 4s and the 5s. So I don't know. I've worn, that's probably my favorite trail shoes still, but I've dabbled into the Ultras, the Zero Drop. They have a new one. It's the something Wild Experience, but it's their first one that doesn't have a Zero Drop. It's like a 4mm, so it's the same as the Speed Goat, and I love it because it's got the wide toe box. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm kind of experimenting into new ones, but I would say the Speed Goat has been my go-to.
Yeah. Are you music or no music?
That depends. I've done a 100-miler without any music, and there's been a couple that I've listened to podcasts and books almost the whole time. So it just depends on the trail and what's how I feel, but I don't mind either one.
Yeah. What's your go-to food? Like if you had a quick snack?
Oof.
I know you have a lot.
Quick snack. Like ultra?
Yeah.
Watermelon. I'm the watermelon man.
Hey, I ran high lonesome on watermelon. If you could pick a celebrity pacer or crew member, who would it be?
Jerry Seinfeld.
Nice. I like it. I feel like
That's a new one.
I feel like a lot of them have been comedians.
I'd have to
funny
pick a comedian, and he just seems like he's naturally funny. And so I think it would be a good time.
That's awesome. And then, so we have quite the playlist now. Eventually we're going to put it on Spotify. I don't think it's technically on Spotify yet, but it will be on Spotify shortly because now it is a long playlist. But what's the song you want to add to the playlist?
Lost in the Echo by Linkin Park.
Lost in the Echo.
It's got some lyrics in there that have just stuck out to me in really hard races, and I always if I need to pick me up, that's been my go-to.
Yeah.
Fires me up.
Side note, what do you think of the new Linkin Park?
It's not as good. It's not as good.
Yeah.
But it's still good.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed their new stuff.
Yeah.
This is different, you're trying to get used to it.
I think we are going to be competing for Spotify plays because this podcast will come out when the new album comes out. So listen to this before you listen to the new Linkin Park album.
That music list is going to be
isn't it all over the place?
It's going to keep you awake at night because you're going to bounce around from Linkin Park to Beyonce to I don't know what else we had in there.
To Led Zeppelin to Turnstile to Lord Huron. Yeah, but
I've listened to every episode you guys have done, but I won't listen to this one. I hate hearing myself.
Yeah,
I'm still not used to it either. I listen to them because I just want to make sure they sound like somewhat okay at least before
Yeah.
they get put out. But
I hope people out there enjoy it, but I
Yeah.
won't.
Nah, Jonathan, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Remember in the show notes there will be a discount code for the Skyline Scramble taking
Yep.
place in March. So
March 1st.
sign up for the March race to keep you busy throughout the winter time, because that's what I love about the Skyline too, is that it's that beginning season race that can keep you motivated through the winter months, because winter months can get dark and it can get really hard to get out the door and train. And
yeah, so if you got questions about the scramble, the Skyline Scramble is on Facebook. Just look up the Skyline Scramble and message them. Or you could just message us here on the Buckleheads Podcast page, and we'll get you in touch with Jonathan if it's a question we can't answer.
Yep.
yep. All right. Thanks, everybody.